الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Three things cannot happen without three things. In one hadith narrated by Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لا طلاق إلا فيما تملك ولا عتاق إلا فيما تملك ولا بيع إلا فيما تملك. Number one, no divorce can happen without marriage. Number two, no emancipation can happen without slavery. Number three, no sale can happen without ownership. Now, interestingly, the Prophet ﷺ used the same word for all three different scenarios, and that is the word of milk, ownership. So one may think that the Prophet ﷺ is maybe referring to the marriage as an ownership. He's not referring to marriage as an ownership, because when you marry someone, you don't own that person. But with that, you own the right to divorce. So the right to divorce is the ownership of the husband, the man. So only husband has a right to divorce. No one else can divorce another person's wife. If someone did that, that won't work. If someone gave divorce to someone else's wife, that divorce will have no meaning. Even the government has no power. Islamically, the government cannot give divorce to someone's wife. They have other procedures that they can follow. There are other legal processes that they can follow to terminate someone's marriage or annul someone's marriage. But they cannot simply give divorce to someone else's wife, because that right is only the husband's right. The second thing that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned is no emancipation without slavery. So if you don't own a slave, you cannot give ownership, give freedom and emancipation to that slave. So you cannot free someone else's slave. That's their right, that's their authority. Only they have the right to exercise that power to free a slave, emancipate a slave. The third thing that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned is no sale without ownership, which is very logical, very simple to understand. You cannot sell someone else's stuff. You have to own something in order to be able to sell something. Likewise, you cannot sell stolen goods, because stolen goods don't become your ownership. They're still stolen. They will remain stolen until they go back to the original owner. And then whatever that owner does to that, then those rulings will apply. But you cannot become owner of stolen goods simply because you stole them or you bought them from a thief. So one common thing that we find in these three instructions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the right to exercise within your authority. You cannot go beyond your authority, and your authority is within that limited scope, within that limited frame. You cannot act beyond that authority. So only a husband has a right to divorce his wife. Only an owner of a slave has a right to free his slave. Only a person who owns something has a right to sell that thing. No one else can do that. The only exception to all these three things is the right of deputation, which in Arabic is called wakala. You can appoint someone and give them the power, which we often refer to as power of attorney. Power of attorney is same thing. You're basically giving someone else the right to act on your behalf in your absence. So a husband can do that. A husband can give his right of divorce to someone else and say, if you want to divorce my wife, I give you the right. Now, in that case, does he lose his right? No. he still owns that right. He still has that ability and that right, but someone else can act on his behalf as well. And that really becomes effective and useful in case where the husband happens to be mentally has some mental problem, has some other mental issue, so he may not be in his right capacity. So in that case, someone else can act on behalf of that person. Likewise, you can appoint someone else to act on your behalf to free a slave, or to do transaction on your behalf, sell something. You give your car to someone, you give your house to someone, you give your business to someone to sell. Now that person is acting on your behalf, and that will be valid. And that is called wakala in Arabic language. So these are simple things that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, but often they get neglected, and we find a lot of chaos because of our own ignorance due to these rulings. Wa akhiru da'wan alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.